What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here of the Nolecast. That's Chuck Blunt. That's Nile, Lawrence-Stample. We are back here, unfortunately, to review the first loss of the season for the Noles as they dropped one in double overtime on the road in Charlottesville to Virginia. Guys, I'll just open up the floor here. Let's start defense, since it's kind of a little more top of mind for me. Upon rewatch, what were some of the things defensively that maybe more encouraged, more encouraged by, less encouraged by? I guess it would be discouraged if I could use some words tonight. Someone else talk, because I clearly just don't have tonight.
Chuck, what you got? What you got, Chuck?
I like the effort. I think hearing Tony White talk about some of the things makes you feel a little better. They sound like very fixable alignment issues. Nile and actually we were discussing it in pre-show, but like just guys lining up probably shaded the wrong way can create such a disadvantage for the defense, which allows some of those big plays. It was frustrating to see just the effort in tackling, and guys have to stop going for big hits and trying to force the fumble and just get the guy to the ground. Sometimes you could actually read Norvell's mouth when Earl Little went for the big hit, and he's like, wrap his ass up and bring him to the ground. Like, that needs to just be the slogan for the defense the rest of the year, because a lot of it is just that simple. Don't go for big hits and don't go for fumbles. Just wrap them up and bring them down. 6 yards is better than 60. And we saw that a couple times where, if they just would have got them down, it probably changes the complexion of the game at times. So that was, I think a lot of stuff is correctable, which I think is good. It wasn't as bad as in the live action when we're watching it.
So let's go ahead and bring this up here. I'll try to zoom in on this a little bit if I can. But for anybody who's watching on YouTube, I think you'll really enjoy this. This is from our friends at StatsBomb. I did some consulting for them back in the day here on their stats product. But this chart right here, if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll walk you all through it some. When we did the instant reaction live on Friday night, we're like, man, they had a lot of, if they just get the guy down at first contact or even close to first contact, then you're creating a real positive following down for the defense. It's 2nd and 8 as opposed to, 2nd and 4, right? And I think this defense is certainly one that, with the variety of different zone coverages and match stuff they want to play with some of the zone blitzing and some of like the sim pressures they want to do, like those work a lot better in some of these longer down and distance situations. Just walking through this, I mean, guys, we know about the Jerry Wilson one here, which is, he goes for the pick. If he holds on to it, it's probably a pick 6 or at least a game-changing turnover. And if he catches that ball, I really do sincerely think this game is over. This one is the one where Earl Little didn't wrap up, and Jamari Taylor runs for 24 yards after the hit. And that's all he could run for, because he was 24 yards from the end zone at that point. So that was a touchdown. But, some of these, like this one's just disappointing right here, right? I mean, this is the Chandler Morris touchdown. He's hit like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he scrambles for 15 more for a touchdown. Like this one here, it's 3rd and 5. They're on their own 14. Like, you're off the field at this point. They're punting from pretty crappy field position. You're going to have a really nice spot here. Instead, gets 4.2 yards after contact. I mean, that's tough. Like those are stuff that, like, they extend drives. At worst, it gives you worse field position after the successive, set of downs. This one here, 1st and 10. You pop this guy at the line of scrimmage. Darrow can't get him down. 5.6 after contact. This one here, again, hit behind the line of scrimmage. Justin Cryer misses him, right? Can't get him down. It's a 6.6 yard run. It's 7 yards after contact, because you literally got him behind the line of scrimmage. This one too here. This is the I clicked on the same one twice. Like, there are so many here. Like, this one, 3rd and 2. He runs for 4 yards after contact. You literally got him in the backfield.
I think why we're so frustrated too is this is literally the key that Nile called out in the preview. The whole goal for the defense was to pursue and get guys to the ground, because that was the one thing that could beat you with this offense, and that's exactly what beat. And so that's what's frustrating about all of this.
Very frustrating.
We knew it going in that their offense relied on these yards after contact, yards after catch plays, And then that's exactly what the defense allowed. So it's just very frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
everybody.
here's the fourth down, right? Like you got them stopped behind the line of scrimmage, 3.7 yards after contact. So many of these set up either manageable thirds, manageable seconds, or conversions. If they tackle like even like an average tackling effort, they're winning this ball game. This is a crazy chart compared to what they had against Alabama. Against Alabama, it was like first contact and they wrapped.
Yeah, but they were swarming to the ball. They were swarming to the ball. It was almost like almost like a weird game to watch because everyone was just like blood, like there was like foam was coming from everyone's mouth. They were running to the ball so hard. It was crazy. So it's like if you're able to replicate that this game, obviously that doesn't happen. But one thing that's different as far as the Alabama game versus this game is Alabama really took their time. There wasn't much tempo. They were also a little bit flustered. So their offense wasn't really running in motion. They never really got into rhythm. And when they did, they were able to pop, but like they didn't really get into any real rhythm. Therefore, Tony White was able to really do what he wanted to, as well as the defense was able to like feed off of that. So it was a complete opposite in this game because they did get in rhythm, they did run tempo, and when you had these guys go out and try to make these plays, one, they were a little bit kind of flustered, but two, everyone else is watching the pile. There's a couple plays where they pop, and everyone's kind of sitting around the pile watching this player get taken to the ground instead of crushing this guy. So it's really disappointing, but there is that silver lining to where, again, obviously earlier in the this episode, you're more or less asking what was the upside, what was some good, what was some bad. Some of the upside was I don't really think that this past game was a good representation of what Tony White's defense can actually do in real time. One, we already saw it versus Alabama, and Alabama is proven and showing that they're an actual ball club. Like they're really no team to kind of just bat an eye at, because that game versus Georgia was really interesting to watch if you got to catch it. But it was that is the upside, that there is some silver lining. I think that we can absolutely come back from this with flying colors.
I'm curious now, when you were on the team and you guys maybe had a bad tackling game, maybe under Stoops, what was practice like in the lead up to the next game? Was there more taking guys to the ground just to drive home a point of you got to finish tackles, or like what was the intensity ramped up? Was it like a Bloody Tuesday type of thing? Or
yeah, no, that's a really good question, Chuck. So there's been a few of them to where we're just like, all right, the tackling wasn't well. We weren't pursuing to the ball. We would run pursuit drills, especially during the season. We would run pursuit drills, and more than because Jimbo obviously has his schedule and he wants to keep his schedule. We all have our individual drills that we have to do. So there's not a ton of time for the defense to be able to do specific things like that. But what it would be the like assistant coaches, all the like head, like defensive line coach or the DB coach, they would make a real emphasis as far as like during team period. Gotta wrap up. That's what we're talking about. We gotta wrap up. You see what we're not doing. So it was almost like your mom, right? It's like they're on you. So there was a huge emphasis in that, and it kind of made everyone a little bit self-conscious. So therefore everyone thought about it a little bit more. Everyone started doing it a little bit more to where it was more of a focal point of what it is we were actually trying to accomplish at practice, as well as doing our installs.
So I'm curious, we talked about like maybe not aligning correctly. I know like when I'm blocking someone and like it's pretty clear like they're in the wrong shade, you're about to earhole this dude, you know, like you know, like it's almost like you're about to land a nice sucker punch on a guy, right? Like he's just with the play you got called as an offensive lineman, you're looking at your chops like, man, if this guy does not move, I've got him, right? Or they got something really funky for me. You know, again, do we think the tackling technique? How do we assign blame here? Like, was the tackling technique that poor, or was it like, hey, you're on your heels because your angles kind of suck because you weren't aligned correctly. Maybe you didn't take on blocks really well, so you're not really like able to, you know, pursue at like with the right tempo because you're really not getting out, like you're really not shedding your block at the right time. Some of these, I mean, like Earl Little's got to wrap up. Like he goes for a kill shot on the guy and he he missed. Like that's a pretty obvious one. Some of these, they're not coming in with bad intentions, and I think it's maybe because of what happened before they started the pursuit. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe like some of that is alignment and like having to get around a bunch of traffic because you're not actually aligned correctly. That allows you to get in position to make the tackle.
I agree with that point, but I'd go back to what Nile said in the instant about how they just looked fatigued from the offense they were in. And if you go back and look, Virginia ran 84 plays.
Yeah.
Most of these guys had only been playing 20 or 30 for the last 3 weeks, right? Because they were getting out of games in the first half because the quality of opponent just wasn't enough to worth risking extra snaps for them. So you do got to wonder, looking back in that second half, bad tackling sometimes is also just being tired, right? You just don't have the energy to drag a guy to the ground. And some of it looked like that. Some of it looked like just trying to force fumbles when you should have got the guy on the ground. I think it was a kind of a little bit of everything. It probably wasn't terrible technique as much as it was the fatigue and doing things you shouldn't have done when you had an opportunity to get a guy on the ground.
Yeah, especially like even prior to the tackle, the fatigue is running to the ball fast enough in order for prior to this guy being able to make a move and actually get upfield, or dropping your hips low and doing the technique that you know you're supposed to do. Instead, you're being lazy and trying to just get them to the ground, which makes sense. It is survival out there. It is survival. I am dead tired, right? I'm dead tired. They're running the hurry up, so I can't get a break. I can't get out, and it's messing up my technique as far as where I'm aligned. And then obviously we're talking about as far as linebackers trying to slap guys' asses in order to be able to switch into the right alignment. Unfortunately, I'm trying to survive at this very moment. I can't move over to that side, because if I do and this guy snaps the ball, he is going to absolutely annihilate me. So I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself really quick. So I can't really do that. But I agree. I think it was one thing that surprised me was Tony White's, obviously his press conference talking about the game. I was really surprised that he was super accountable, and I love the way that his approach to it was, because it was the way that it needed to be, as far as him taking all the blame. But I was surprised he didn't mention anything of any sort as far as the tempo of the offense. Like, he didn't mention it in any capacity, which it was very easy. Not even me just being a former player, but anyone could have watched that and saw that the defense was on their heels due to the tempo. So he didn't mention it at all, which I thought was interesting. So maybe he just has a different take on it, or I don't know, but it's really hard to not notice that, period. Like, it was hard.
For sure. In hindsight, Darrell Jackson played better than I thought he did in real time. He had a lot more doubles. Like, when you go back and watch it, there were guys, I guarantee you, film session was not pretty for some of these backers. And some of these other dudes, it's like, really? Like, 6 is eating that double team and you can't trigger faster than that?
Trigger.
Like,
You got to go.
What would you say you do here? Like, to quote off space, right? Like, because he actually, they doubled him a ton, and he actually held up pretty well. He didn't make a ton of splash plays in the backfield, but I mean, he was occupying 2 guys regularly.
He was creating opportunities for other guys that unfortunately they just didn't take advantage of. And we kind of talked about that leading in. We thought with a backup center, potentially they would shade more help, which they did, but unfortunately, the guys just didn't take advantage of that opportunity and make the plays that were needed, especially in those situational settings, right? Like, we get it. Every single down is going to be hard, but you got to win third down. You got to win second and long and not allow them to have third and short, things like that. And that was the frustrating part, is there were plays to be made that they just didn't execute on.
I also think this was a different defense after Ashton Barker went down. I think he's going to be okay. So that's encouraging, just, based on stuff I heard. I hope that's true. But and I'm not saying Shaheem played awful. I think Barker's a much more physical presence than he is in this defense. So not having him in there, you had some situations in which you had Cryer and Herring on the field at the same time. And I do think that UVA with Morris was smart enough to realize, all right, when they got both these guys in here, these are not particularly like their best cover guys. Mm-hmm. And like we can probably pick them apart. And they did on several occasions there. So this staff's learning about this team too in real time, just as we are, right? Probably, even more so. I don't know how much you get out of Kent State and East Texas A&M, but I think they probably realize now, all right, how often can those two be on the field together? Against some of the quarterbacks you play, I don't think it's a problem. Against some of the more veteran guys, that's probably not a personnel grouping you can afford to go to, I would think, just because they can kind of, pick it apart. I don't. Who are you going to play other than James Williams, I guess, at this point?
I would like to see Amari get an opportunity. But I've been an Amari fanboy the whole offseason, in the previous. Yeah, I would just like to see him get an opportunity. It sounds like he is moving back to defense more on a full-time basis. So I'm curious to see what kind of condition he's in for that. I mean, he's been playing two positions. He should have good stamina, but it's a little different, playing with that type of position and taking on contact every single play. But I'm curious to just give him an opportunity, even if it's just pass rushing situations. I would also like to see James Williams in less rundown situations. There's a reason he was a pass rush specialist at Nebraska. And we've seen this defense and offense use guys in the specialty roles they're capable of. Maybe it's time for James to go back to his specialty role. Maybe he doesn't need to be on the field in 1st and 10 or 2nd and 6. But when it's 3rd and 7, let him pin his ears back and go after the quarterback. Put one of the Desir twins out there at the defensive end and see if they can set the edge. But it also probably did. Where's Jason Jenkins been? I feel like we're not
agreed. We saw him a little bit.
He and that's what I'm figuring.
It's got a little bit.
It's got to be the injury, but him, Deontay McCray, some of those other guys, maybe even let Stephon Thompson play a little more end and see if he can set the edge. He knows Tony's defense, so give him an opportunity. I just don't think James is going to be able to hold up against the run, especially in this coming week. I feel like they're going to lean on him and probably run right at him any opportunity they get. I mean, that's what Miami wants to. Miami's not going to try to do anything crazy. They just want to run right at you and run you over with that giant offensive line.
Yeah, which is what I think is exactly what we want. I think we want a dog match. I think we win. I think we have our best opportunity with a dog match. Personally, I haven't fully invested everything in James Williams. I do think that he still. I want to see this Miami game. I saw some good things at this past game for UVA. I thought he controlled the point of attack sometimes, and he was able to create separation sometimes. I think he's really close. He just has to turn it on. And if we can see him in this Miami game and be a little bit less tired, I think if we can strategically pull him and put him in certain situations, I do think that he could be. I do think he could be an actual asset on a rundown and a pass down. He's been close a couple times as far as the pass rush is concerned, but I want to see a little bit more out of him. I'm not writing him off just yet. I do think he has some upside, but yeah, it's one of those things. Amari would be great. I don't see why not kind of throw him in there and see what we got. There's no reason not to. And it seems like that's going to be the case coming here Saturday, but we're going to have to be disruptive way more than we were this past week. I tell you what, this past game the pass rush was almost abysmal. We got a sack or two, right? I want to say we got a sack or two.
Well, that was Barker on a safety blitz, the only sack I remember. They couldn't get home with the front at all.
And we could barely even get pressure. And again, I am still surprised that Tony White didn't mention that, seeing as it would have. I don't think it's an excuse, but I think it kind of gives your actual players some sort of cushioning as far as why they didn't perform all that well, because it really kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of I'm a little bit torn on that.
As a frame of reference, Virginia runs 80 plays a game. Miami runs sub 70. So this is going to be a way different tempo. It's going to be a much slower pro style type of game, which benefits the bigger defensive front that isn't as agile and probably as well conditioned for an 80 play game.
And I think in this game too, you're going to have a massive gulf in terms of the desired tempo that teams want to run. Mario already wants to go slow. He knows Gus is on the other side. Gus wants to go fast as hell, right? There's no way in hell that Miami's not going to drain the play clock every time, do the check with me on the sidelines type thing, which I do think UVA did effectively, by the way. Like I thought Morris did a nice job with some like the fake clapping and stuff to try to diagnose what FSU was in late in the process, so you really couldn't check out of it. Miami's going to go slow. I wanted to ask you guys this, like, do you think that, because I kind of agree, facing a scheme like talent neutral, obviously, like there's a certain point where if the talent's like so damn good, I'd much rather play Virginia than, you know, maybe a Miami style scheme. That's TBD as far as like how big the talent gap is. But like, is it that some of these young guys don't really have great technique yet to face what a Virginia does effectively, whereas just they can be aggressive as hell against Miami and just like a smash fest, basically? Is that why we feel more confident in that?
I would say I feel more confident because it's going to, I would say it's more because we can actually play what it is. So going into this UVA game, Tony White obviously has a game plan. And one thing Jimbo always said was you have a game plan until you get hit in the mouth, right? And that's what his offense always try to do. He's like, you can game plan all you want until you get hit in the mouth. And once you get hit in the mouth, it's like, figure it out. And that's what happened to us. We had a game plan. Tony White had a game plan. He went in. The game plan went to hell immediately. It went to hell immediately. So it's like we couldn't watch the game plan unfold. So now it's like, all right, we're both being tactical in how we're going to go about this game plan. And I think we have a pretty solid game plan. I think Tony White can come up with a pretty solid game plan as long as he's able to actually implement it and do it and execute it, which we never got to execute this last game. So I think that's more or less why I feel a little bit better. I think he has the guys. I do think our guys are a little bit more agile. Again, I don't want to go too deep into this Miami game, but I do feel more optimistic for that reason.
I also don't think Miami's run game is as explosive. It's consistent and they win. Like they're a good success rate, but they're not. Their run game is more 4, 5, 6, 7 yards consistently than I'm going to bust one for 35. And they also want to come more straight at you instead of testing the perimeter, which I think testing the perimeter puts a lot of stress on these linebackers. And I don't know that that's their strong suit, is trying to play sideline to sideline. So, I mean, it's going to be a physicality game, but I think it's much more like how Bama tried to attack you than it is the way UVA, right? And we saw. Now, part of that was Bama did completely abandon their run game very early on, which was a little bizarre. But I do feel like that style of run game is probably better suited for this defense than one that's going to just stretch you sideline to sideline and be able to take it all the way to the distance. That just doesn't seem like Miami's run game right now. It's with the personnel they're using. I mean, if you get tired and tackle bad, obviously they can house it, but that hasn't been their thing consistently throughout the season so far.
I think that's fair. After watching how well Simpson chucks it around against Georgia over the weekend, by the way, you played a hell of a game against them. I think that kid also had a little bit of an off night in Tallahassee, but probably the moment was too big for his first real road start environment. I mean, he was. Now I know Kalen DeBoer is basically just like, the Super Mario star anytime in the first half against one of these Saban coach defenses. They should have scored 31 in Athens in the first half. Yeah. Like if Ryan Williams hadn't dropped that ball, I mean, they should have scored a touchdown every time they touched it, basically. I mean, that was remarkable. All right, let's last shout out. One thing we did get our eyes right. I thought Rawls did play really well, and upon rewatch, I like your corner combo a lot, man, a whole lot. I think as they realize they can trust him more, you can probably play a little more cheat coverage on the inside. And
I was surprised Kirkland didn't get a little more run. They brought in Shaheem. It was a little interesting. Though when Barker went down, it wasn't Kirkland who came in; it was a Shaheem instead. Maybe that was just because of the physicality or like the way they were running the ball, and they wanted somebody similar who would come up and hit you because that is Shaheem's game. So maybe that was the reasoning behind it. But I was a little surprised Kirkland didn't get a little more run in the game because we had seen him earlier in the season.
Anything else on the defense before we flip to offense?
Nope.
Cool. All right, I do want to tell you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead now.
Yeah, there was one other thing. So when we were talking about the alignment, and so just to kind of give like an insight on what's going on there, when we're talking about alignment, and as our guys are kind of, let's say they're in a shade, and we're super tired, we're trying to just stay where we're supposed to be. We're trying to just make sure we don't get hit in the mouth and actually just line up. That assignment is so important. And if we're not lined up like directly on the money, it's very difficult, like you said, Bud. But like at the end of the day, that makes a huge difference to one, obviously the angles of where we're supposed to be. So we're getting blocked a lot easier. Again, it could cause issues as far as when we're tackling and the angles that we're going in order to be able to tackle. But more than anything else, it affects the linebackers from where the hell they have to go. So if you are lined up in a B and I need to be in a freaking B, I have to be in the damn A or the C. I can't be in the same alignment as you. Therefore, I don't know what I'm doing. So therefore, my actual job changes. I may not be able to make that play on that quarterback as he's running the zone because I'm not supposed to be over here. So it affects everybody's job if my defensive lineman can't get lined up right because of hurry up. So it's just like it trickles all the way down the line. But I wanted to make that little insight because it really affects so much more than what you can think. Just someone lining up in a 4-eye instead of them lining up in a 4. It's crazy. It can get hairy sometimes, especially in his scheme.
Bud, you're muted.
Oh no, I muted myself. All right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you brought that up. So something else makes a lot of sense is if you need a home loan, you call it Legendary Team. Legendary Team 844 FSU loan. I know Chad hopes we get back on the winning side this week. I do as well. We'll see him up there in Tallahassee. More than 600 Nolecast listeners have decided to give the Legendary Team a call, 844 FSU loan, for all their home loan needs. You know, based in South Florida, but licensed in so many states throughout the Southeast, and just do a great job of knowledge of the market and personal service, and trying to time things up and give you that kind of first class touch. So Chad's been with us for a long time, and somebody I can give my my greatest endorsement to. So with that, let's talk about something I think we also give a pretty good endorsement to, with maybe a couple little complaints, and that would be the Florida State offense. So decent night. Upon rewatch, I'm a little pissed they didn't score like 50.
Yeah.
Not pissed, but just pissed might be strong. I'm a little annoyed that they didn't get 50. Like, I really think they could have, and maybe I want to use the word should have, I guess. I kind of think, and I do have one thing to share here. This is the passing chart for the Noles. There's like a large area here in the middle. They just didn't throw the ball, which I'm curious if this is going to be something that is going forward. They did chuck it around in the middle of the field a little bit against Alabama, but I mean, basically there's nothing. There's what, 2 balls in the entire night inside the hashes that are more than 10 yards?
Yeah.
Part of that's the way UVA played this. I think they said, hey, Tommy, historically you have been a poor downfield passer, especially outside the numbers. Prove it. And in some cases he did, but past 20 yards, you saw somewhat regression to a more reasonable number. Like coming to the game, Tommy was like, what, number 2 or number 1 in the country in terms of downfield accuracy, which is completely flipped because he was worse in the country according to PFF for like earlier in his career. That neither of those is probably reflective of his true ability level. It's probably somewhere in between worst and best in the country, honestly. 3 of 9 downfield overall is not that bad, actually. Like 3 of 9 for passes that traveled more than 20 yards in the air. If you're 4 of 9, I think you take that all day. Like you're not going to complete like more than half your balls 20 yards down the field. It's a bit of a risk reward thing. But when I pulled up the passing map, the 0 attempts essentially. Well, there's 1 attempt here, middle of the field. Like really just like 1 ball inside the hashes over 10 yards the entire night. That's kind of wild. What do you guys take away from that?
You go, Chuck. What you got?
I think he got very locked in on Deuce early on. I mean, because Deuce, it's a shame. Deuce played a tremendous game, and I'm sure he would love to have that last catch in overtime back. But sometimes you just ride your hot hand, and it felt like he kind of force fed some balls to Deuce, and I think he was struggling to see the middle of the field. He got a couple balls batted, it seemed like, and he had the interception where the pressure came right in his face. Like, I just wonder if there was just an issue with seeing the middle of the field, given he's not tall. I mean, it's difficult when you got that giant offensive line in front of you and you got a rush coming at you. It might have just that the passes were there on the outside more than it was on the inside. I've also just been a little disappointed in the tight ends. I don't feel like they're getting open as much, and creating opportunities to throw it in the middle of the field, because that's more likely who you're going to throw to is Pittman, or even a running back on a Texas. And then he had a couple opportunities to hit crossing routes and he just missed them. Like he had one on to Lewayne coming across the formation. It would have been outside the hash marks where he would have completed, but that was an opportunity to throw one.
A touchdown.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and he just missed it. Like, and that's unfortunate, I mean, but I was actually overall very satisfied with. I wondered how he would play in that type of ball game, and I think he acquitted himself very well. Like, I mean, I thought overall he played a very good game for what we asked him to do. I was more concerned with some of the other play calls than actually the passes. I thought we got the most out of the passing game that we could ask for, given the situation and being behind and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't surprised that we didn't attack the middle of the field very much, especially with the batted ball, especially with some of the inconsistency as far as being able to even again, just being able to see it and try to actually get something going in the middle of the field. I would say when we didn't see the Castellanos that we typically are accustomed to seeing, just because he was just, we were on their heels. We were in a rough environment. There was a lot of, obviously with these kind of like fluke plays that aren't really his fault or whatever, but it kind of, it hurts the ego, and it hurts that confidence that you have. Cause now you're like, all right, I gotta freaking figure this out. Right. I gotta figure this out. And my defense, unfortunately, isn't helping me very much. I have to figure this out. So we don't go to where we're not necessarily comfortable. We go where we are comfortable. And that's definitely not the middle of the field, especially when we were having some issues there. So I'm not surprised about that, especially with the run game kind of being somewhat effective. I see him kind of trying to lean into his comfortable areas, which is going to be the outside, as well as it's a lot less risky as well. So I think that is what, at least my thought process on why it just didn't really make sense for him to go to the middle of the field. But again, you really got to be in a rhythm. And I just didn't, even though I thought he played well, I thought the offense as a whole really showed a lot of resilience. And we could, again, like you said, Bud, we could have put up so much more points. I thought if our defense played half as well and allowed our offense to get a little bit, to cut the momentum in that stadium at all, I see a much different ball game by that offense. I see us marching and doing the things that we want to do, how we want to do them, controlling that game. But again, that is a part of the climb, and that's a part of Gus kind of guessing and understanding how Tommy works. And I think we'll see a better adjustment from Gus with Tommy, because you could see that there was a little bit of a clash there as far as what was being called versus what was actually happening. So I think that he will be able to get some better calls for him that are be better suited for his personality as far as how he attacks certain adversity opportunities and situations.
I was like a little overall disappointed in the run blocking, to be honest. You have so much like 11-man run game built into this offense with Tommy, and I feel like that gives you good angles for the most part. And just I didn't see like that like physicality with the run game as much, and like almost like the crispness of it. Like there's just the pop to it, and part of it's UVA. Their defense played well, and they were not out of gaps very often. Like sometimes they got moved, but like it felt like they met the moment pretty well. So you got to give those guys some credit.
Yeah, I also feel like Gus sometimes out-coached or like out-thought himself. Like when it seemed like he was getting the run game going at times, like before the interception, they ran it. Keziah was a part of that too, and he all of a sudden disappeared after 2 carries. But anyway, they were running the ball, and then all of a sudden he would go to throw it, and it's like I get you're trying to catch him off guard, but when his run game seems to need repetition to really get going downhill on people. And as soon as it looked like it was going to, he would call a pass. And whether that was his choice or Tommy was going to RPOs and things like that, which is always a possibility, given that's built into the offense. But it seems like sometimes they had opportunities and we're starting to get momentum going. And then all of a sudden a pass play would get called and it would bog things down. All of a sudden now you're off schedule because it just kind of disrupted the rhythm. And that was a little frustrating. That was probably what the B- game out of the offense. And you got 500 yards and 91st percentile success rate. It's hard to complain about, but I understand that there were opportunities to probably score more, but I will just call out, they scored 35 points in FSU history. FSU is now 297-7-1 when scoring 35 points. That's only the 7th time they've ever lost when scoring 35 or more points.
Wow.
This year alone in college football, teams who score 35 points win 92% of the time. So 35 points should be enough. And that's why I have a hard time putting too much blame on them. Yes, there were opportunities left on the field, but when you give your offense gives you 35 in regulation, you got to find a way to win the ball game. You just do. I don't know. I have nightmares of 2009 thinking about scoring that many points and losing football games. I just do.
To your point on, it felt like they were trying to get to the pass just because they thought they could catch them off. It was almost like, you guys ever play video games or your kids ever play them? You got to do certain things like a fighting game, right? You get enough hits and all of a sudden you get a power up. You want to launch the special move. In some cases, man, just keep throwing those combos, right?
Yes.
I know the power up bar is lighting up and you get to launch your special attack and stuff. But if you're whipping the guy's ass with a bunch of punches, just stay on it.
Yeah.
You don't have to take the time, step back, let the guy catch his breath. So you can launch this, super attack move. Well, it's kind of cool to watch. That's kind of what it felt like at times.
Yeah,
I know you have it. You don't have to necessarily play that card. Who else do we like on offense?
Oh man,
I mean, obviously Deuce was tremendous. If that's, I said it during the game. Deuce is 5-star Johnny Wilson. The athleticism, the size, the way he moves. He plays really hard, which I appreciate. And he's not perfect by any means, but that's a really nice weapon on the outside that if he can build off this game, he's going to be really hard to stop the rest of the ACC schedule.
It's very hard to just pinpoint, obviously, just Deuce. I think where it's a little bit disappointing as far as the offense, I think there's so much good on the offense as far as their fight and everything else. But I think overall, you would have really liked to see Thomas Castellanos kind of keep everything kind of leveled and really be able to not let the game kind of dictate the results of some of the drives. I think I would have loved to see that, and I think it would have been able to kind of bleed throughout the rest of the team. So I would say that was my only thing, even though I think he is genuinely I think he's a baller. I think he's a baller. I think he's a gamer. I think he's everything that we need right now. I would have loved to have seen him be a little bit more sure of himself, even though there was times of doubt, because people really respond to that. People really do respond to that. So, and this is somewhat kind of indicative to what happened as far as not being kind of planted in the ground and saying, all right, I'm going to throw to all of my receivers. I'm going to make sure that I can get open. I'm going to continue to read and do my checks instead of trying to get bailed out by Deuce. And it kind of, it dictated a little bit as far as what the offense looked like instead of him kind of taking control. And I know he has it. I know he has it in him. So I'm happy that we're, especially listening to him speak and him saying it's just like, yo, we were kind of us, me, the team, whatever it was, we're kind of smelling ourselves a little bit. And we need to I think we needed that. which is good because they went immediately to the top after they beat Alabama, and that was like cloud 9. And then we got to ride 2 bad games to where we looked like we were back in 2013, 2014, and it was like, all right, cool, that's all well and good, but like we got a schedule to play. So it was good for everybody, but again, I would have loved to have saw that early and not necessarily have to get hit in the mouth like that prior to it happening.
Do you think he make the right reads in the run game?
Oh, as far as just trying to like force it?
No, as far as like some of the checks and some of like the give or keep decisions. I
thought he was off a few times.
Yeah.
And I do wonder how fully healthy he was.
Yeah.
He was wearing a sleeve on that left leg early in the game, and he didn't look like the normal Tommy in terms of his explosivity and just as confident and almost cocksure the way he can get, where he's like, I can get wherever I want on the field at any moment. He took that sleeve off in the second half, and he looked a lot more like the Tommy we've seen, like when he's playing well. So I do wonder how much that all played into it, and also probably led to some poor decisions on those read plays, because there were definitely some ones early in the game where he could have kept it and taken off, or he did keep it and he probably should have gave, and he made the wrong decision, and it resulted in a lot less yardage than it should have been based on the call that was made.
I think that makes sense. Honestly, any quarterback having a sleeve on after the nonsense we went through last year where they pretended like DJ was fully healthy is, kind of just triggering for me. So I'm just glad to see the sleeve come off. All right, what else on the offense? Like I feel like it's in a good spot ultimately.
Yeah.
This upcoming week, and we'll get into it, is a different test, obviously. But I will note Miami hasn't seen anything close to what you run. They've seen some good offense. Like Notre Dame's offense is pretty damn good. Like Carr is playing very good football right now.
Chroma has to get more carries.
Yeah.
Like
Early.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Get him involved early, because good things happen when that kid touches the football.
Yeah.
They just do.
He finds it. He's like,
what did we used to say about Jimbo sometimes? Man, we need you to think players, not plays.
Yeah.
At times, right? It's like, hey, like we know your scheme is brilliant, but like it's in college football, there are certain guys that just like if you feed them, good things happen. And like in 2014, he started to just do that with Dalvin. It's like, all right,
yeah,
fine. Like just here's a lot of Dalvin. And guess what? Yeah. It's actually a really good play. Just to give him, give 25 touches. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good.
What else do we have as far as offensive stuff?
I am curious about Squirrel. He just doesn't look right. I don't.
Yeah, let's take a look at his targets here.
He only had 2 catches on 3 targets for 11 yards. Like he just, I don't know. He's dealing with. He doesn't look explosive, getting behind the defense or anything. I think there's probably something more wrong than they've let on. Like, and it's got to be something. I would almost question if it's something in the lower body. It wasn't his hand that he hurt on the punt return, but it seems like he just doesn't seem right out there. He doesn't seem like he can get past anybody right now. I was just a little bizarre, like trying to watch him go out there and play the other night. It just didn't seem like he's right.
Like his separation is lacking a little bit.
Yeah.
I see what you mean there. He's never been a guy that's like super awesome on screen stuff either. If you look at his Tennessee, like he was okay sometimes, but he was really.
He gets behind the defense. He's not the bubble guy. Like, I mean, that's what I want Lawayne running, right? McCoy is good at that stuff. He's really good yards after the catch on short stuff. But I feel like Squirrel is best suited to get deep, almost. Burt Reed was kind of like that. Remember, Jimbo used to try to run bubbles to Burt, and Burt was much better at just trying to beat a guy one-on-one down the sideline. Like he just was, and he was tough for as little as he was.
Yeah, it was that Maryland game, I think that ruined it, because like he scores 1 touchdown in the bubble screen. That was the Myron Roll game, right?
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah, when Myron was at the award ceremony for the
Rhodes Scholar.
for the Rhodes Scholarship, right? So we had to come in at was it halftime or just
he showed up at halftime and got dressed and played the second half.
Yeah. Burt, isn't that a game Burt wins on basically a bubble? Because Ponder double clutches it, or is that NC State? Am I getting red jerseys confused here? This is 15 years ago now. 16. I'm old. Yeah, that's a tangent for sure. All right, I'll reset us here with an ad read. Congruity HR Solutions is one of our best sponsors we've had for a long time. Any way you want to optimize your business, Congruity really can help you out, whether it's HR, payroll, optimization, analytics, health insurance. Congruity can do it all for you. Make sure you hit them up. All their contact info, of course, right there in the show notes. Congruity HR Solutions. We've had like 10 Nolecast businesses, plus all the business Graham sends those guys as well. A great partner of ours, and certainly somebody we continue looking forward to working with. All right. Where do you guys want to take this now? Like, quick look around the sport. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to say one last thing as far as these receivers are concerned. One other thing that kind of happened, and one thing that I did see during this UVA game was when Thomas Castellanos is trying to bail himself out or trying to just be able to try to make something happen, you have these other receivers that are running. First of all, Deuce was exhausted during that game. I'm not sure if you watched some of the clips or some of the parts to where prior to him, they run a lot. They run a ton. So if you're running and you're not even Deuce and you are running these routes over and over and over again, and you're just not getting targeted, that is very difficult to deal with, especially on a team that's trying to find their identity, to where it's like, I am not being targeted. I've ran about 35 routes at 100 miles an hour, trying to get open, trying to get past the DB, but I'm not getting targeted. It becomes a little bit of an issue. So that's where you get into having. So let's talk about this Alabama game that was amazing. Obviously he has his main receiver that he really likes to go to, but he spreads it out. Also, he does his really, really good at looking through his progressions, as well as putting the ball wherever it is that he wants to on the field. He slings that ball wherever it's supposed to go. So with that being the case, if I'm a receiver, I'm going to work a little bit harder on making sure that I'm open on every single route. These are guys that are actually running these routes. It's just real time ball. And if I'm not feeling like the progression is happening, I'm not feeling like I'm really going to get that opportunity, I'm going to run at 90% instead of 100%, therefore causing some issues there. So it's like, if we could see Tommy spread the ball out a little bit more, we probably will see a little bit more production from the wide receivers, just because they know that the opportunity is there,
So
the numbers back that up too.
Yeah,
I mean, Deuce had 11 of the targets, and Tommy threw 27 passes. I don't kind of give you.
Do you think they trust Tommy to read a defense? Because I don't. Like, I if you look at Gus's offense, like historically, they're going to force feed the hell out of one guy, and then the touches for the other dudes largely come up on stuff that's kind of either scrambles or like schemed up off the run game or like bubbles type stuff. Like it I'm trying to think, like, the last Gus quarterback that really like dropped back
and read
it out. Yeah.
Like Stidham, probably, right?
Probably Stidham. Also, like, Tommy has never ever shown, and I think he's been a hell of a get for them and a really great fit for what you do. And ideally, Nile's exactly right. Like, if he could do that, I think you get more buy-in from some of the receivers on some of these plays. I don't know if he's ever shown the ability to do that. Yeah. And like, if he could, if he's showing that in practice, I wonder if they wouldn't call some more of that stuff in the game. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Oh, look, like 11 targets to Deuce at a 65% success rate is like, that's awesome. Yeah. You're going to take that like every single time. He'll face some better corners than that UVA kid, obviously. But
probably not this week.
UVA did a great job of not allowing like the wide open off the trick stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you never hit a freebie on them. Really?
Yeah, the biggest play was the 30 by Danzy, wasn't it, on that little like jet pass?
And that's like a right after the catch thing. It's a cool play, but like some of the schemed open vertical stuff where just they lose a guy, down the seam, just didn't really happen.
No.
Even when their best safety went out, like they still they still covered that stuff pretty well.
Deuce had a 47-yarder, so that was the longest play of the game. But for the most part, they kept everything in front of them. Like they and we kind of said they were going to do that. They were going to play back and try to keep things in front of them and dare Tommy to be patient to beat them.
Yeah,
he almost did it.
Yeah,
exactly. The last time we talked, we did not see what else went on in the sport. So certainly feel a little bit better about that Alabama win after they go and beat Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
That was encouraging.
It was a very nice win.
Would have been nice if Wake could have closed out Georgia Tech, because Wake definitely outplayed those guys. Did you see what happened on this, by the way?
The ref screwed them on the offside.
Oh, my God. We would do a whole episode on this. I mean, dude, like, so now if you haven't seen this, Tech clearly jumps off sides. Like, the entire guy's body's across the line. Wake snaps it. They think they've got a free play, which by all rights they should. Throw it up. It gets picked. They never throw the flag for the offsides. I'm like,
and then nothing.
No call. Like
Tech won an OT.
I think that should be reviewable, by the way.
Yeah,
like, I'm not trying to let's review everything, but on a turnover play where there's a very clear offsides, I think that should be reviewable.
Yeah,
it's a pretty quick review. Either the guy's on sides or he's not.
Yeah.
Who else on the schedule? Let me see. So BC lost to Cal.
NC State lost to Vatech wasn't it in Raleigh too?
With a bunch of those Vatech guys having injuries. Yeah, basically opted out. Yeah. That was pretty shocking.
Yeah, it was.
That NC State defense is not really what it used to be at all. Who else on this? Florida didn't play. Miami didn't play.
That Pitt game was wild. Pitt blew another big lead and lost to Louisville. They were up 17-0 and lost 34-27.
Yeah.
Is Holstein still the second worst Power 5 quarterback in the country?
Yeah, well, and also Narduzzi brought up that they would evaluate the quarterback position this week in practice.
Yeah, they brought in a transfer that they spoke at least decent, and then nobody's gonna be bringing a transfer yeah, this kid sucks, right? Like everybody's gonna say nice things about him, but you bring in, but yeah, I mean, if you're running the second worst P5 quarterback in the country, you might need to think about that.
Yeah,
we'll see what they do there.
So there's a very real chance, because is Pitt off this week? I think they're off, aren't they?
I don't know. I don't have the Pitt schedule.
No, they have Boston College this week, so I'll be curious to see if Holstein plays this week, or do they go with the new guy? Because that's the game following Miami, so it's very relevant to FSU interest on who they play at quarterback this week.
Yeah.
You're certainly not out of the playoff race, but I think your playoff odds are somewhere in that 20 to 25 range now, as far as like how it stacks up. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need some fortune. You still control your own destiny in terms of if you beat Miami, you're going to go to the ACC championship game, right?
Not technically. They don't technically. Because technically, if Virginia and Georgia Tech run the table, they play each other regardless of Miami. If FSU beats Miami, they both could be only 7-1 at best, while Tech and Virginia can still technically go 8-0 each. So in theory, that could be the worst case scenario for the ACC is FSU beats Miami, Georgia Tech and Virginia run the table, and that's your ACC championship, while 11-1 FSU and Miami are at home. Now that's a good way to get 3 bids.
ESPN called a satellite laser strike on somehow.
Yeah, that's like a 0.1% chance.
That would be crazy.
I'm not calculating the probability on that. I'm just going to say it's like 0.1% chance, but it is technically a lot.
Going to announce a new format. Yeah. By the way, we also have a new third place game championship to be held in Tampa, between Florida State and Miami, because we need some ratings here for this league. You cannot have a UVA Georgia Tech conference championship game.
That's like Wake Forest and Boston College back in 2008.
Oh my God, dude. Seriously. Yeah. Trying to find the quarterback rankings here on is he the worst? No, he's still second to worst, because the Danny O'Neill, who's the backup, who's played a lot for Wisconsin, is the worst. But Eli Holstein with a PFF grade of 51. So that is not really going to get it done. That's
no.
51's an F in all the schools I ever went to, y'all.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough. Let me see here. I think that's pretty much all we have. I do want to make sure everybody shows out Friday, 3 o'clock. We're going to do Cover 3 live from Madso. That's going to be fantastic. And I want to see everybody out there. Always, there's a lot of crossover Nolecast fans and Cover 3 fans. A lot of Miami fans hate listening to this show. Your money spends pretty well at Madso as well, as long as you're well behaved. So, we'd be happy to see y'all out there as well. Give you a little chop. And yeah, man, it's going to be a hell of a time out there. I'm looking forward to previewing this game too. I think that it's actually like a really interesting matchup. And my opinion on it has not changed all that much from what it could have been. I guess if you went and killed Virginia, I would have felt better about this. But
I think I would have been more nervous about the game, to be honest. I feel like you get too big ahead. Then, like if you would have gone and won 48-10 at Virginia, I would have been like, man, I don't know. Their confidence might be too irrational going into this.
Yeah, that needed to be a tight game at the best. That needed to be a tight game. I'm with you.
That makes
and
sense.
Now it's like, but again, we're talking about it as far as Alabama being able to go in and win. Does that happen if we don't hit them in the mouth week 1? So it's like, it's all about in college football, it's all about that momentum. So it's like, does Alabama really get their act together? Do they have a come to Jesus meeting after that game and get their stuff together in order for them to be kind of where they are now? So I'm just hoping that that's kind of the same kind of trajectory that we're going in. But yeah, anyone listening, follow me on Nolan with Nile. I love talking Florida State football. That's all I talk about. That's like my passion. But yeah, follow me on Nolan with Nile on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, to Twitter. I'm all over it, just kind of talking about Noles. But yeah, man, that's all I got. But I'm looking forward to this Miami game. There's some, especially watching this UVA game again, I'm kind of excited to see Tony White. I think we're going to be able to see a really good representation of what this defense can actually be at a high level this Saturday.
No doubt. Chuck, got anything else?
Nah, I'm good, man.
Awesome, man. Enjoyed it, guys, and we'll talk again for the preview.